Begin with listening and sitting back and enjoying with Mark Freshwater. How beautiful. Mark, Freshwater, you grew up being surrounded by the music of your family.
Yes, I was.
Yeah, tell us, your father was a versatile piano player?
Well, my dad, well, he could play 2 songs on the piano. He was a trombone player.
Oh.
And he had a jazz band, a combo, which was called George Freshwater and the Five Jacks. And then he had another band with a different name. But I grew up listening to him practice, rehearse in our living room. And my mom was a piano player and taught piano. And she taught me piano. And her mom taught her piano. So it's kind of a legacy. So yeah, I grew up with it. Started plunking around on the pots and pans when I was 2 or 3 years old, and then I gradually started going. Mom said, "Okay, but time for lessons." So that's how it all started.
Oh, wonderful! And you listened to both grandmothers in music. I think that's just marvelous.
I was very, very lucky. My maternal grandmother was quite talented as a piano player, and I played duets with her.
Oh.
My paternal grandmother, who had polio at the age of 8, still managed to play piano and organ, and played duets with her. Back to my maternal grandmother, she played at the silent movies.
Oh.
She played at the local theater, so yeah, it's all there.
And then you
Grandmother
took
Freshwater
off.
played at the church.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you worked with choirs and folk groups in the 60s and ran on to rock bands in the late 60s and 70s. The influences from classical to heavy rock.
Yep, and everything in between. I was part of a praise band service in Cleveland and one in Arizona for about 7 years total, adding those together. I did party band music in the 80s, so I've had a little taste of this and a little taste of that.
Oh,
and so this new venture of writing the music, though, has really been in the last decade.
Mm-hmm. And this movement toward the CDs so that we can take home and just be with your music. I was amazed that you said that we were all going to get a copy of your music.
Well, my first CD, there's a whole stack of them over there, the Nuevo Piano, which means new piano, right? If you loosely translate it in Spanish. Everybody gets to take one of those home with them today.
How generous of you.
Yeah, it's my first project. There's a classic song that I redid on there. There's a couple of original songs. Well, they're all original except for 2. And it was my first effort in 2012. So,
Well,
but I
thank
think
you.
I've still had people comment how much they like that particular CD. So,
All right.
Yeah, I'm pleased to offer that today as a gift.
Well, as you share your music with us and your description of the music, we're going to be aware of what you said is facing you as the amazing way you've prepared to be with us today, and as it is as creative as your music.
Well,
tell us about
I
this.
appreciate it. The little armband here is not part of my style. I'm going to have cervical surgery on October 9th. This will be my second cervical surgery. I had one 9 years ago. And they're going to repair cervical stenosis, where I really have very limited use of my right hand right now.
Now,
So
would
that's
we ever
why I'm
have known
playing.
that? Would we
Yeah.
have known that as he
Well.
was playing? The wife,
Yeah.
Debbie, knows that.
Yeah, it's. I have to ask her to open jars instead of me opening the jars for her. I mean, this is like backwards, right? But I'm not proud. We're going to get through it. So coming out the other end, I hope to be able to come back and play music. The last performance that I had was at St. Anne's Hospital 6 weeks ago, and I could not finish my 2-hour performance, and I had severe pain, and I thought, this is it. This is the end of the line. And at that point, I knew I was going to be facing the surgery.
On October
October 9th.
9th.
Yeah.
All right.
So on October 9th,
Keep you in-
everybody say a
we'll
prayer
send
for
our
me.
energies.
I'm not proud. I'll take all prayers.
Uh-huh. All right. Well, take it away.
Okay, well, I did want to just talk a little bit more about the elements of today's presentation, because it is more a presentation than a musical performance. I'm going to explain the creation of my eight projects and what the nemesis for them was, the inceptions of them, rather. But I wanted to explain how some of the background of my music influenced those decisions on what I chose to record. The creative process in and of itself, because that's a whole different bailiwick with the technology available today. And then I've got samples of the music as we go along. We're also going to have some audience participation, and we're going to start that right now. So, don't be bashful. Does anybody here play a musical instrument? Aha, there's one. All right. You were holding out on me, weren't you? You play some piano, right?
Piano and guitar.
Okay, piano and guitar. And lessons, formally, all that stuff? Good for you. You still stay with it?
Yeah.
Have you ever tried to write anything?
No.
Okay. Have you ever tried to write anything?
I had to in musical theory.
Okay, there you
But I
go.
have to say that I haven't really stayed with it.
You had what with it? You had fun with it?
What was it? What?
Did you say you had fun doing it? Not so much.
That's probably why I didn't stay with it.
Okay. Well, so the title of my presentation is actually The Joy of Creating Music, because I think creative artists, whether it's painting or writing a book, anybody that's in the creative arts, sculpting, music, if they're going to be creators, there's something that is driving them to do that. And so when I went back and looked at my creative endeavors, I saw a different purpose each time that I created songs. Because the rock band, we were going to be great, right? The rock band, us and everybody else in the 70s, everybody had a rock band. We went on the road, and so there was a creative process that was kind of foisted onto our group because we wanted to have our own sound. So the first experience I had songwriting was rock and roll songs, which differ so totally from what I'm doing now. And then involved in the church for about 15 to 20 years, and the praise groups. I also wrote a couple of Christian songs. That was in the 90s. But until I hit 60, which was 9 years ago, I bought myself a piano, grand piano, and then that started this whole love again for the piano. And I thought, creative endeavors can go to the piano now. So, plus I had to have something to do in retirement. So that was all part and parcel to getting started. So we're going to jump right in at this point I'm going to play a song. By the way, that song that I played at the beginning was the beginning of a song called Rhapsody, and it is on my CD, third CD, Trees of Life. And I'll explain a little bit more about Rhapsody as we go on. This first song that I'm going to play, and it's going to go through that speaker over there because I can't possibly play it. This is probably one of the songs that's most classically oriented, and you're going to hear strings and all kinds of stuff in it. It's called 2,000 Miles, and the story behind this song is my wife was 2,000 miles away helping a family with a fire back in Cincinnati, and I was in Tucson. So I'm sitting at my piano, and I started writing. I had a creative flourish of music, and this all came to me while she was in Ohio. Okay, well, the fun part of that song is y'all
Oh,
get to take
thank
that one
you.
home with you today. That is on my first CD project. So, like I say, that was a flurry. Actually, I wrote about 15 songs in a matter of about 10 months, and I picked up another 4 songs from the past and included them in the first 2 CD projects. Both of those were 2013.
Tell us what was happening as you were composing what we just listened to and were carried away. This beautiful place.
Thank you. I appreciate that question. Most people ask a question about the inspiration. A lot of these songs that were written in that initial 9-month period there, 2013, were songs that came to me, or I would sit at the keyboard and start experimenting with chords and sequences. So I can't really explain. I sit down at the piano and sometimes it happens. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes I'll get a theme going. That particular song has 3 themes to it. And the angst at the end was to tell the story about how much I was missing my wife and 2,000 miles away. So the song title for that one was easy. The angst, hopefully I got that in the chords at the end, which were played hard and loud. So a lot of it's the dynamics and just experimenting with the sounds.
Amazing.
So and then, of course, the texturing of all of this, it was just a piano song. All of them start out as piano songs. And then everything else that you're hearing gets layered in on top of that.
Yes. Yes.
Typically, I'll have strings, I'll have a bass, I may have cellos, synthesizers, guitars. I've got a couple songs that have organ in them. So it
And
depends
that in
on the
itself
mood that I'm trying
is a
to get.
musical composition as you combine it all.
It becomes a
Wonderful.
composition. It starts out as a song, and then it becomes a full-blown composition. That particular track that I just played you is one that I'm very proud of because I think it has a lot of complexity to it, and yet at the same time invokes your interest. So not beyond the average listener's ability to listen. And that brings me to another topic, and that's creatively listening to music. I don't know how many of you used to have, the stereo headphones, and whether you were smoking anything or not, where you'd really get into the music. But creative music, listening to music can be a creativity thing, both for you as the listener and certainly as the artist. Music is closely related to the other fine arts. We've talked about that, rhythm, harmony. But it's essentially a communications art where person composing the music produces the music, the receiver, the listener. If they get something out of it, you've got communications. And so it's been said that it's an international form of communication because you don't really have to know a language. Music is its own language. So anyway, next one, which was kind of done simultaneously, is called Biosphere. And these are Earth songs that have New Age influence and sounds to them. You're going to hear something pretty unusual here, and you're going to say, where's the piano in this one? But I wanted you to hear this just as an example of what can be done with the MIDI technology, musical interface digital technology. And so this next one is called Genesis. Okay, so
Bravo.
from there on,
Oh,
there's
that's
another
wonderful.
minute and a half. And in that last minute and a half, you have animals coming in, you have people coming in, people on the subway. So that explosion was the meteor. Prior to that explosion, and of course this is where the meteor hits Earth and then, you know, dinosaurs, whatever. But the angels singing is tied to the Christian theme of creation. So you have the angels singing in the first couple of minutes, and then you have the scientific explanation with the meteors. So I've got both sides covered here. I'm not ruling out either the religious beginnings of the earth or the scientific beginning of the earth. Maybe they're both right. So anyway, that's Biosphere. Now, all the songs, not to scare you, not all the songs on Biosphere are that intense. There's melodic songs on that CD as well that are just easy listening songs that aren't as much work as this one. But I wanted to give you an example of what can be done with the technology, because there was no piano or organ or any keyboard sounding instrument in there at all. And those are all done with my keyboard, however.
Yes, you are creating
sounds. I
it.
created all of those
And
sounds.
what's happening as you're creating this?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well,
Are
that
you
particular
looking at trees and hearing birds?
Yeah, right.
Thinking about the millions of years ago
thinking
with the
about
dinosaur.
dinosaurs. Yep. And then, of course, the birds. You heard the birds.
Ah, it's
So
wonderful.
the birds and thinking about the birds. It's hard to represent bacteria because they were the most populous and still are. So that was the second project.
Anybody have any comment at this point? Debbie, can you tell them about the
Oh yeah. Well, there's a place that's a good segue. My wife reminded me that there is a place in Tucson, Arizona. If you ever get there, you need to go to Biosphere 2, which is an amazing museum that's operated by the University of Arizona.
Biosphere?
Biosphere 2, and of course we're Biosphere 1. Earth is Biosphere 1. So when they created that museum, they wanted to explain how the Earth is formed, but they also set up scientific experiments. If you remember this, I think it was the 90s, that they had the people that lived inside a bubble. That was at
Yes, yes.
Biosphere, and they lived in there for a year and a half to see if they could make it self-sustaining. You know, they grew their own produce. They tried to live amongst themselves without killing each other, all cooped up in a bubble. But it's a fascinating place. When that was taken over by the University of Arizona about 12 years ago, I guess it was 2 years ago, they had a 10th anniversary, and I was invited to perform my CD, Biosphere, at the Biosphere.
Oh, how wonderful.
Which was pretty special, because I think they only had 5 musical groups that whole week of their celebration. So that was kind of nice. Thank you for reminding me, Debbie. She's my best agent and promoter.
Wonderful. I can tell from the expression on her face. She is so proud of you.
Yes.
So happy, yes. Ah,
So another source for the music comes from things that I have performed. And some of the things that I perform can be spiritual or Christian, or they could be rock songs or any number of things. When I perform, I have mostly songs from the 60s and 70s. But this particular song is a very old song, spiritual song, and I'll just play a little bit of it. We'll just do a little bit of this. I'll sing a couple of notes. Sometimes I feel like a mother's child. Sometimes I feel like a mother's child. from home. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Such a long way from home. Long way from home. That's Motherless Child. That goes on for a couple more minutes, but I'd give you a little taste of it.
Exquisite.
Thank you. And of course, it's soulful, spiritual, and so when I present it, and there are some strings on the recorded version, but it's non-vocal on the recorded version. But when I perform it, I try to put that soul into it every time I perform the song, because I can imagine being motherless, and it's everything that's involved in that, being separated from family. There's a lot of current day examples that we could throw into the mix, but we're not going into politics. Okay, the fourth project. I'm going to keep this moving because time flies when you're having fun.
Tell us about the voice that you have. Did you take voice lessons like you? No, it just comes.
No, I was singing at church, basically.
Wow,
Sang all through the choirs.
soul you have that comes through.
Yeah, the rasp and the range, I mean, the rasp is there, the range is not compared to what it would have been 30 years ago. But I probably destroyed my voice a little singing the hard rock in the 70s. But I still have a little bit of a voice, so try to project it. And I've been asked, go ahead and you need to do a vocal album. Well, I may do a vocal album someday. I have backing tracks with my singing on it, but it's more like karaoke sounding stuff.
So are you self-taught in terms of voice? Debbie, self-taught?
No formal lessons, no.
Oh,
Yeah, choir, and being coached, some great choirs. I mean, I was in the West Point Glee Club, and we had a great director there, Colonel Schempf, and we got a lot of coaching. And Norman Steiger at Ohio State University. I was in the Glee Club at Ohio State when I transferred from West Point. So a lot of Glee Club singing, a lot of choral singing, a lot of, in high school, lots of choirs and breakout groups and folk groups and you name it. Any chance that I had to sing, I was singing. So it was learning it by doing it, I guess. It's basically the same with creating the music. Nobody actually taught me how to create music. It kind of came to me to do it. So, but that's a great question about the voice.
And you're so at home with singing.
It's comfortable for me. It takes me to a different place. Takes me to a different place. This song is called Morning's Fog. This is one of those songs that came to me while I was driving down the road and looking at the weather, looking at the fog. that's Morning's Fog. I promised
Does anyone
audience.
feel like you want to applause? I
Feel
want
free to
just
applaud.
Applause. Oh.
Yeah, that's real stunning when you have a flute player up here with you doing it. It's
Oh.
just makes the hair on your arm stand up when you hear a real flute playing it live.
It's
I
amazing.
promised audience participation, so here's your chance. Okay, this next song, you've got a little handout there. You just wrote a song. I'm only going to play a minute and a half of this. You just wrote a song. There's no pencil or anything required, but there's 4 song titles here. And when you listen to this song, you only have one of those 4 titles to pick. And you tell me what you think you would call this song. Okay, it goes on from there. Okay, now, everybody has to register their votes. Let's start right here. What would you call it out of those 4 choices? The winter one? Winter Reflections? Well, it has to be one of these 4. Yeah, that's fine.
Midnight in Cleveland.
Oh, there you go. So he said number 3. So okay, he said Solace. You said Midnight in Cleveland.
Yeah, because when I was listening to it, I just remembered the cold nights, walking the docks, and the wind going through, and the loneliness.
Okay, Winter Reflections in Cleveland. There you go. Well, if songs mean different things, then you hear it and you connect. You're going with Solace. Okay, we got Solace there and Solace there.
Winter Reflections.
Winter Reflections. Okay, how about over here?
Number 2.
Number 2. Number 2 is August Sun. I like that.
I'm with the August Sun.
August Sun, back here. Winter. Winter. Sun. Winter. She knows. Sun. Solace, okay. August Sun. Winter, okay. Maybe because that it is kind of quiet and sedate. It's like there's nothing going on, and it's just maybe cold outside. So I get the winter thing. I did write a song called Winter Reflections, but this is not it. This song I ended up calling Solace. So everybody that got it right gets an extra CD for free.
Oh, wow.
All right, so you get to take your pick from over there. So August Sun is another song that I wrote. Winter Reflections is a song that I wrote. The Traveler is just something I pulled up to have a fourth choice. I have not written the song yet called The Traveler. But anyway, I thought that would be kind of interesting because as I've told Ellen, and my wife knows this, Debbie knows this for a fact, I will work on a song for a week or 2 weeks or a month or longer, and I'll put it aside and I'll come back and I'll try to finish it. Whether I finish it or not, I still haven't got a song title. So the title comes a lot of times afterwards. I'm not really inspired to write a song with a title in mind. The title comes afterwards. So anyway, thanks for participating in that.
Wonderful.
Now the CD that you won't find over there, the next one, oh wait, the diary is the next one. Do have that one over there. Okay, now this one, diary was done in 2016, so now we're only 3 years ago. And this particular CD was a project based on things that happened, events that happened the year prior in 2015. So there's songs on here that relate to things that happened in 2015 in our personal life. And so there's some fun songs on here as well. We actually saw petroglyphs that year in Arizona and petroglyphs in Ohio. So I have a song that I wrote called Petroglyphs, and this particular song will show you what rhythm can do. This gets a lot of attention on my FM radio stations and also gets a lot of thumbs up likes on the streaming services. This is Petroglyphs. It's about 4 minutes
Do you
long.
and Debbie dance to this? Huh?
Oh, there's also flute on this.
Yeah.
Find myself using flute on about every third song. And there's a little bit of a break in the middle, but that's essentially it. And that song is driven by rhythm. So we all know that you're either listening to the melody or you're tapping your toe or, there's some combination thereof. That one, the rhythm just grabbed me. And that was a thing that motivated me to do that. I grabbed that rhythm backing track and used it with my song. So that's just one song on the diary. There's a lot of melodic songs on the diary, so don't get the idea that they're all the same as that one. The next project was a songbook project, which Ellen's quite aware of this because she actually purchased one of these last year. This is what I'm most proud of. 18 songs of my first 5 albums, which is about 75 songs. I picked 18 to have charted. And so I actually have the sheet music for 18 of my songs. And I put it together, had the transcriptions done, and there's a CD in the back that has all 18 songs. This particular song that I'm going to play for you is called Spirit Rising, and it's a very unique, again, one of those where the special effects are part of it, the main part of it, actually. If you can imagine native Indian cultures and spirits rising, that title came to me. after I composed this. Natives Rising, so I guess,
Magnifique.
yeah, that one's a little different. That actually is the closing song to that particular CD. And that takes me to my very last project, which is Inspirations.
Oh, and guess who just came in? Luther
I see somebody
McGee.
over here.
He did come in.
Luther, you recognize the sketch. All right, he's got another one. So kudos to Luther.
Let's hold up the cover of this
So
that Luther did last year.
yes. So last year when I was here, Luther McGee, who is sitting right there with his pad and doing some more sketching, pretty amazing. He put this together while I was performing here last year. So I've used it as a cover for my CD and my songbook. This particular songbook, and there's the CD, this particular songbook was picking 7 songs. Instead of waiting for another big book like this, I picked 7 of my faves out of this CD. So there's 14 songs on this new CD. The one unique song on here was everybody getting jazzed up about the solar eclipse. And so that was an inspiring event. So since it was an inspiring event, it inspired me as well to write a song. That's all I can play. So the rest of it, if you want to hear the eclipse, you got to listen to the whole song. So this is the eclipse, and you'll hear the moment of the eclipse in here. It's about in the middle of the song is where you have the full eclipse. Try to represent it musically. Okay, that brings it to the end. Thank you. And that was my last project, and we're out of time, so we hit the end of the road, I guess.
And we will remember you October 9th. You probably
Okay,
start
yes.
early in the morning with that surgery,
Yes.
huh?
Oh, yeah.
We're with
I'm
you.
on the doctor's first, I'm his
Uh-huh.
first patient that morning.
First one, and Debbie will be with you too. I know you got to go through it.
Thank you very much.
All right.